You don't need to live here in fear as an immigrant unless you are doing it criminally. And just by looking at him, I, as a woman in New York City, know exactly what type of person this is. And it's a young, straight white male who is gonna have a much easier time getting laid if he becomes an ally. But they feel so good about themselves. And for what? What does no kings mean when you don't have a king? I'm still trying to figure that out. Let's take a quick look at the most unhinged, insane things coming out of the No Kings protests across the country.
I'm here in Grant Park in Chicago, where tens of thousands of folks are gathering for the No Kings Day March. You know, about 2 weeks ago, President Trump deployed the National Guard here, saying he wanted to protect federal buildings and lower crime. But we heard from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker paint a really different picture of Chicago.
What Trump did.
They have actual incentive to paint a different picture of Chicago. They are the ones ruling Chicago. They are the ones that can be pinned and blamed for the conditions of Chicago. And when we're talking about the National Guard, we're not talking about just anything going on in Chicago. We're talking about federal facilities like the ICE facilities that are not being adequately protected, and the government workers that work for ICE are not being adequately protected, which requires federal assistance. If the mayor and the governor do not want to support these initiatives, then it is the president's responsibility to come in and protect those workers themselves. The mayor and the governor have an incentive to make it look like Chicago's doing phenomenally because they are the ones in charge of the city.
What Trump didn't count on is Chicago coming together to stand up for freedom and individual rights, for American values, because we love America!
Take a listen to some of my conversations with a few of the protesters.
I came out today because my family, my grandpa.
Are they trying to feed into the stereotype? Because this couldn't be more on target with the hair, the nose rings, the piercings. It can't just be preferences because this doesn't look good.
And my grandmother came from Mexico, and I feel like it's only the right thing to do by coming here today, and everyone's here just being American, democracy, and I just had to be part of this.
Why does having Mexican immigrant grandparents have anything to do with being anti-Trump? My mom is an immigrant from Korea, and she did this immigration process legally, and she made a decent life for herself here. And her life here is much better than it would have been back in Korea at the time. But why is the reason that you give for being at this protest just merely the fact that your lineage is Mexican?
As a person of faith, I'm concerned about my neighbors, and I'm concerned about the injustices that our administration is inflicting on our society. And so I can't stay quiet. I have to speak.
At first, I just thought that his sign said, "Sorry for being awkward. This is my first protest." And I was like, that's kind of sweet, and I don't really have much to say about it. But then I saw that it says dictatorship, and now I just know that this person's delusional.
Because my faith says to welcome the immigrant, to welcome the stranger, and it's the very idea that people would come here and have to live in fear and what's.
You don't need to live here in fear as an immigrant unless you are doing it criminally. I don't know why an immigrant who has come here through the legal process would be fearful. They are given the rights that an American holds, and they are being protected by the management of illegal immigration. The more illegal immigration that we have, honestly, it creates more racism towards legal immigrants, and it takes a lot of opportunity and funding away from them.
What are your thoughts on ICE and what's happening right now?
This is like Nazi Germany now. Look at your history.
I think it's terrible.
Beyond sad. The whole idea of masked people making people disappear.
It's terrible. It's like the new Gestapo, and it's terrible.
They're like Nazis. If you study the Nazis, you'll see the same thing happen.
Policing your own people is not what America.
Honestly, this kind of looks like it's in New York City. And when it comes to thinking that any group is more Nazi-like than the other, I hate to break it to them, but the left in New York City is definitely looking more Nazi-like than anything on the right, because they are using this common evil that they call Trump and MAGA and using that to justify violence and hatred and vitriolic action when most of them don't really know why they dislike them, and there's no room for anyone who is not basically a socialist. They won't tolerate you, and you can't have any other opinions. That is how Nazism started. Immigration, again, people have no nuance when they talk about it, and they just don't leave any room for the fact that most of us are pro legal immigration. But when you do mass illegal migration, you lose all of the benefits that you're trying to extend to other people. And the people that could have come in legally are going to be robbed of that experience alongside Americans themselves that are just born here.
It's not what America is about.
Not crazy about how they're treating average people, our neighbors.
No one should be able to pick up U.S. citizens and make them disappear. No one should be able to pick up any person.
Nobody's picking up U.S. citizens. Do people actually think this? Or are they just using this as a ploy because they know they can't say anything about illegal immigration without sounding anti-American, which a lot of times people don't really mind sounding anti-American, so I'm surprised that they're still trying to dress this up a little bit.
Any person in this country and make them disappear. We have our civil liberties, we have our rights for a reason.
It's total Gestapo agent kind of shit where there is no accountability.
What we need to do is hire more judges, not get more ICE.
I think ICE is just completely out of control. Every time I look at the media, I'm just I'm scared, honestly.
I think that speaks for itself. Don't look at the media that you're consuming. Don't look at it. Think logically about policies and what's going on. Don't just look at the media. Don't just look at TikTok.
Back in like 1939, people being grabbed, immigrants, it's horrible. This needs to stop.
If we're talking about Nazi Germany, those were not immigrants, they were Jews, and nobody's saying that. Nobody wants to say that in Nazi Germany, the people that were being grabbed and sent to concentration camps were Jews. Don't group them together with immigrants coming from South America. That's not the same thing, and you don't get to claim that.
I think it's really messed up, and there shouldn't be any more of this happening in America.
It's a secret police they're established. It's, what, $130 billion? They're wearing masks?
Fuck Tom Homan. He's a piece of shit. He takes bribes. He's like harassing.
They had no problem with people in Antifa during the BLM protests wearing masks, rioting, looting, causing fires. They had no issue with them wearing masks, but apparently people that work for ICE and for the government can't protect their identities when we all know that they are being doxxed and literally attacked.
Okay, are you feeling so good about what happened this weekend with No Kings, and now you're like, so what do we do now?
What did you do? What did you do? What did you accomplish? What do you feel so good about? With the number of people that you were able to get together for the No Kings protest, you didn't show up to vote and partake in this democratic election, or it just didn't go the way that you wanted, so now you're claiming fascism. But on top of that, if you brought that number of people out to work in the community, which these people never do, okay? They don't use their time to work directly in their own communities to better their communities. They do this so they can take pictures and post online about how great they are, and then they go back to their daily lives. They don't have to work on the weekend. They don't understand the concept of people working or having responsibilities on the weekend. They don't understand the concept of people having other things that are really dire and actually struggle from real life scenarios that prevent them from going to protests like this. But they feel so good about themselves. And for what? What does No Kings mean when you don't have a king? I'm still trying to figure that out.
Now, I have got an answer for you. It is practical, it is something you can actually do, and it could make a world of difference, literally. So you know that on November 4th of this year, we have major elections happening all over the country, up and down the ballot, really important. So many people don't even know about them, but winning them.
Isn't it crazy that these people that are at these protests don't know about the elections? Because they are not concerned about the elections. They're not concerned about voting. This is all about their online image and their presence. There are so many people that just post about this online to gain attention, to get pats on the shoulder, and they could care less about actually waking up 7 a.m., going to their nearest voting facility, and partaking in this democratic society. They just don't want to have to do that, but they want things to still go their way. So when things are not going their way because the majority voted for the opposition, then they're just rioting and complaining and whining and claiming Nazism and fascism.
Would make a seismic difference. And one of the best ways of doing that is simply doing something called relational organizing, which is when friends text friends or family members text family members, because people are always more likely to do something if somebody they know is asking them to do it. So I created this Google Doc. It's called Election DMs. And what I've basically done is written little DMs for you to copy and paste. You can personalize them if you want, and you can send them using whatever method you like. You can email them, you can Instagram direct message them, you can text them to people you know in these locations to make sure they know about the election and how to vote. I made a nice little text message you can send to people you know in Virginia about the election.
People are so lazy. I'm telling you, this is what I mean. They're so lazy that they need someone to pre-write all of the text for them so they can just copy and paste it to their own friends and family. She's talking about sending this to their own friends and family, and they need a template. So lazy.
I'm at the No Kings protest here at the foot of Market, and they're going to be marching here any second to the Civic Center. And I got to tell you, I was at the No Kings march in June, and this may have just as many. There's like 50,000 people then, and I bet there's as many now. It is just packed. It's kind of a festive atmosphere.
Why is like 60-70% of all of the people that I see partaking in the No Kings protests above the age of 70? My hypothesis is that they, one, feel guilty about them owning property while the new generations, the younger generations, cannot afford to buy them out of it. And two, they are just like, okay, I'm gonna die soon, so I should do something virtuous. And maybe they're concerned that they won't be able to cash out on their property investments that have seen like a 500% increase because nobody can afford to buy them. We have had Democrat after Democrat for the better part of 20 years. This is not an issue that is just popping up because of Donald Trump.
Right now, trans people are being vilified, are being accused of being at the center of people's problems when trans people just want to live the same way anyone else does.
If the problem is that they want to live the same way as everyone else and you think that they're being villainized, you need to talk to your own community. And this is just like the last video we watched where it's like, talk to your friends and family, talk to your fellow trans people and allies, because the ones that are pushing narratives where they need to be in women's spaces, they want to transition young children, they need to be talked to. They're ruining this for you. No one else is ruining this for you.
And this is a lot of communities right now: immigrants, people of color, women.
There's a feeling that
nobody cares. I'm telling you, I genuinely, most people on the right, and I can't say all because there's always going to be crazy people everywhere. Right, left, center, everywhere. But most people do not care if you're trans. They care about the agenda that you keep pushing down people's throats, including children. Okay, here we have some of the violent signs from over the weekend. Here we have the Better Snipers sign from another old guy. You can claim that you're peacefully protesting, but whatever happened to your claims about hate speech and inciting violence, what does this mean to you? It doesn't matter, apparently, when it's in support of your ideologies. This is also from the Denver Communists organization. Again, violent. Why does everyone live up to the stereotype of the libtard? I don't know. But they really just keep giving us the content there. I looked at their website actually, and on the Denver Communist website, we see there is a section, which I've been trying to figure out what this means. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. What? Also, why do you have the word luxury in the same sentence as communism? I thought those were antithetical, where communism is about giving people the bare minimums, that everyone's on the same playing field. There's no luxury there. We also saw Harry Sisson or whatever posting from the New York No Kings protest. And just by looking at him, I, as a woman in New York City, know exactly what type of person this is. And it's a young, straight white male, who is gonna have a much easier time getting laid if he becomes an ally and is this spokesperson for the left, for the marginalized, the minorities, the immigrants, LGBTQ. And so people like this are pandering to the women, the liberal women, and they get a lot of attention for it. He probably gets told that he's so hot and all these things, even though he's extremely average. And that's because he is a white man who pretends like he's the savior. And people, and especially white liberal women in New York City, love that, because guess what? They date white men. They don't date outside of their race, as much as they like to claim that they, it's a preferences thing. I'm just not attracted to them. I'm not going to sit here and say that the No Kings protests didn't have good turnouts, but we are seeing a complete lack of intellect, a complete lack of independent thinking, and honestly, it's just a bunch of sheep at this point involved in groupthink, and we can just only hope that the youngest generation who's really suffering, and not these boomers, and not the millennials, but the youngest are going to wake up knowing that the democratic history and the liberal history that we have all lived through the past 20 years has not brought us any closer to prosperity.